Right, we're going to talk about auto rotation. Now, the auto rotation of safety regulations, really. So basically, it's going to be um, a ship of a radial diameter, and it will look very similar to a jumbo jet, should we say? So you can have a jumbo jet image of a look, and it'll have a radial diameter of a mass, and it will be weighted underneath. So it will have a certain weight which will keep the craft um, falling in the correct direction. Now, the idea is that everything in the ship is electric, so everything is produced under electric current and vacuum pressures. So we're going to have things like all engines are going to be electric. They're all going to be able to use all environmentals for uh, for fuel sources. So they will be air burning in the Earth's atmosphere as they come in, and they will be under control of all good natural systems. We're going to build a two-way safety structure inside the actual spaceship. And because there's going to be a two-way safety structure, some of it is going to be mechanical safety, and everything will be mechanical and function without any electric current. And they will all function under natural forces of creational nature. So there will be a motor that will rotate under vacuum pressure resistance, and it will rotate and keep rotating and produce electric current that will be supplied to all the engines. The design isn't finalized as yet, but the actual structure of the safety regulations is actually laid in. So we're going to have chambers of vacuums, and they'll have motors in, and these vacuum chambers with motors in will rotate under vacuum pressure. This is if all electric current and all power basically fails in the craft. So we're working on a craft which basically has zero power and will still fly itself under zero power. So the volume of the mass of the ship under auto rotational drop, when all the engines are auto rotated, they'll also produce power. They'll also produce another electrical current supply, along with the other motors which are separated and inside vacuum chambers. All of this, though, under mechanical design, will activate as soon as there is the loss of all power. So as soon as the power is cut from the vessel and there isn't any electrical current available, all mechanical will activate and kick in and run under natural activation of natural uh, uh, pressurization. Now, under an auto-rotational drop, right, the engines and all of their rotation will kick in because the air is rushing through the engine as it's dropping down. The ballast of the weight in the craft will keep it balanced. I mean, it might wobble a bit, right? It might wobble slightly, but it will have a ballast of a weight at the bottom, which will keep it the right way up. And and this thing will fall down under its own gravitational weight. It will force all of the atmosphere through the engines. It will be designed totally to have the capability of having all of the power of the weight of the ship being thrust through the engine, and then it will have the rotation of the blades inside the engines, which will produce electricity that will kick off um, some of the um, some of the mechanical uh, functionality. But the whole thing is designed basically to activate without any electricity. So it's all going to be mechanical. So as soon as it loses all power, all the mechanical systems will kick in. as it drops, produces electrical current under rotational blades. It will then bring all the other safety regulation systems online. Now, these things are separated away from the main structure of the control of the craft. So these won't be used during normal functioning of the spacecraft. These things will just be redundant and just be left in the system. Um, but of course, you could use them during various things of fuel consumption, if there is any fuel, like electrical uh, power management consumption. And so you can balance all your power structures, and you could even test the fact that they're still up and running and still working by manipulating your power structures to a minimal, right? And then bring online the other structures, which then balance your power as a test to ensure that all of the safety regulation systems are still there and up and running and working. And as it drops and falls, the whole thing is aerodynamic as well. So it'll be designed not to flip, right? It'll be designed to keep itself righted in the right direction, and it will create a pressure drop resistance. So it falls, creates an air pressure of resistance, which then the aerodynamic side of the underside comes into play, and it will fly the ship under a full-blown drop of its own weight. So you're going to be able to manipulate the craft and fly the craft. Now, the idea is that obviously there is a pilot on board, and he'll be able to manipulate the craft and fly the craft under its conditions of emergency landing. Now, we're going to build into it the fact that there isn't a pilot as well. So if say, let's say all systems fail for whatever reason, and the whole ship is all by itself, then this thing will fall, create air pressure, build a cushion of air. It will suck up, the engines will suck up all of the power and natural forces and start to function. And you'll be able to fly the craft to a safe position of a safe landing. Now, if it's under its own control, then we'll deal with the fact that it's in conditions of atmospheric. So it will come down and float, and the closer it gets to the ground, the greater the resistance is in the air cushion. So initially, let's say it's very high and it falls in its own way, it will create an air cushion which it will fly on. As it gets closer and closer and closer to the ground, there will be a ground resistance to the air. And you have to make sure that the craft will keep its cushion, keep its air cushion underneath it. So as it hits the ground, the engines are in auto rotation thrust resistance. So as it hits the ground or gets closer to the ground, you should be able to design it that it should almost float all the way down and have a soft landing. If it's designed correctly with its radial diameter and its weight source and its ballast and all of its natural mechanical devices which function naturally by themselves, under all these conditions, they'll be designed to function naturally under all these drop conditions. So when it comes down, it will automatically have a soft landing. So you can bring it down and land it softly in open ground of open land. But of course, we have to combat obstacles as well. So we're going to put in some radar control systems where if anything happens with the craft, that we're going to be able to control it under radar communications. So we'll be able to guide it away from buildings and be able to guide it over to open ground and clear ground. So we're going to be able to manipulate it, move it, fly it, and then basically land it on open ground through radar communications. So this is the idea of the new design structure of the new spacecraft. Now I've got a development spacecraft, which isn't the reality of a reality of a one, but it's called Bluebird. But we also have the original craft, which is the LTSQ, and the LTSQ is basically the light technology science quantum aircraft. So light technology science quantum is going to be the spacecraft, which will be the final structure of the final design. But during the design structures of it, I'm going to name each one. So the first one I've got is Bluebird, and it will be a functional mechanical craft, as well as a full-blown, highly developed electrical system with electrical conduits and storages and plasma conduits and various other inlets and outlets for jets and flying capacity and gimbals and all the rest of the internals of the actual spaceship for flight. So so this is where we are, and I've managed to recreate a brand new website. I do apologise to the global people that are still possibly surviving and remaining alive during these times of terrible Austrian movements of a global scale. And that includes the Americans, because they're all Austrians at the moment. So I apologise for the losses of the websites. The science websites that we had got blocked, and as far as I was aware, were globally blocked and were unable to be updated and edited. So unfortunately, when I had an opportunity, because I fixed the issue of the problem by running the system through a separate server, which was away from the situation of the actual sites being blocked, and I was able to access at least the first stages of the website development login, but I still couldn't get into the website to update any of the knowledge or the information. So we had to remove them. So we removed the websites and deleted them and secured the information and the knowledge that was on them, because they were definitely being tampered with and blocked, so other people couldn't see them. So we eradicated them, deleted them, got rid of them, and got rid of all the access to all the links that were being blocked on a global scale as well. So all of my website links were blocked and went to blank pages. So we've created a new one. We're rebuilding the knowledge. So we're still here for the independence of tribal nations, and we're still here for the nations of independence away from this new global murderous group of genociders. And we're still in defensive structures of building the new future of defense for your country, or your countries. So I haven't put on the website yet all the information regarding the magnetic defensive structures, nor the laser domes that will come prior to the magnetic fields. But all of these are brand new detective units. Now, they have come into play around, say, towns, villages, and cities, purely because of the spaceship's resistant shell. So we've got a laser orb, right, that goes around the ship, which is a light shield. And then we have the magnetic shield that goes around the ship as well. And the laser orb complies to the magnetic shield, and it goes around the whole of the ship. So it's a full-blown magnetic and laser beam orb around the ship, and the ship's in the center of it. All right. So we're using this in space as a natural resistance against the environment of space. And it's all going to have the correct wave bands and wavelengths to be able to resist various types of radiation, and it will also resist um, uh, certain types of uh, particles that are in space. And we will use the motion of forward to basically bounce some of these things off the natural resistance of the shield, right, as you're traveling through space. But we're also developing the fact that some radiation needs to get in, right? So we need some radiation saturation. So we're going to tailor the shield so it will be resistant to certain others and bounce others off the actual shield surface whilst it's moving. And then we'll have radiation saturation onto the shell of the craft as well, because we need a little bit of this for power production and energy energy. What's the word? Well, for radiation or energy saturation, so we can power manage the whole thing whilst we're out in space. But it will also work in the atmosphere of our planet. All of this saturation business. Because it means that the craft, whilst in the air and in our atmosphere and in the daytime being saturated by the sun's radiation, will be able to produce power from the surface of the shell of the actual craft. So all of this saturation technology is designed to draw as much energy and power as we can from the environment, but also it will be used for all sorts of things. So it will be used for cooling the surface of the actual craft and bring in an internal condition of atmospheric management. So, like I say, all the countries which have got full-blown permissions and full-blown technological rights to be able to develop not only your defensive city structures but also your new spacecraft and your military developments are still ongoing. So the website now is at MailChimp, and for the time being, we haven't had any interference on it, and it's still up and running. So for those ones that are in the know, you need to keep an eye on your Twitters, because your Twitters have been tailored, or my Twitters have been tailored for direct communications to all the countries that have permissions. And all the new links to the new knowledge of information is still there. We are still a Celtic country, we are still a Celtic Isles, and we are still in development, and we are still offering as much help as we can in the conditions that we are in our country, the relevant support to all independent countries away from this new global movement. The new global movement, like I say, is a genocidal movement, and it will genocide your people, and it will bring in cannibalism. The Austrians are the ones that manage all of this on a global scale, and the Austrians are the ones which are fully responsible for this movement. So we need all of this defense and all the structure of good military development. So I'd like to wish you all a very good luck, and we're still here for you.